started. We only have 28 minutes left. Okay, so as most of you know, I am Sam. I am an Ops Boss group coach, and I will be leading the Shift Book Club. And so far, we have talked about tactics 1, 2, and 3, which we're talking about mindset, expense cutting, and leverage. To start off the call, I would like to hear what's one thing that you guys have implemented for you or your team that contributed to either expense management or leverage, like we talked about last week. Is there anything that you've changed after that book club or thinking about changing?
I missed last book club, but you're saying what have we done to cut costs? Was that? I'm still catching up.
Yep, cutting costs or maybe combining roles or maybe leveraging off tasks.
Yeah, I can share one.
Okay.
We have decided to finally go with an in-house photographer slash videographer because we're paying this other company like over 80 grand a year.
Mhm.
So yeah, which is a heck of a lot. And we do a lot of luxury properties. So we decided to bring that role in-house because the benefits, even of paying somebody, with benefits is far outweighs the amount that we're paying for an out of house and the time turnover and everything. So that was a cost analysis bit we just finished.
That's awesome. I'm sure that'll save you so much money.
Yeah.
It sounds great. We just went the in-house photographer route and it's really worked out for us. So I hope the same for you. Has anyone else done anything? Oh, it looks like I just got something in the chat. Can't speak in this environment, but I can chat. We are looking closer at all expenses, but especially ROI and realtor.com. Yes, I think we're all really looking into our ROIs right now to see what's fruitful, what can we cut costs on. Okay, moving on to today. So we have 4, 5, and 6 to cover, and it's all about lead gen. So we're diving into how to find leads, how to convert those leads, and internet leads, and that whole realm, which is large. So, like I kind of chatted before, almost everyone jumped on. There was a few people I chatted. I went through these chapters, and how I thought about it was, how can I support in lead generation? Because a lot of the operations people aren't involved in lead gen. They aren't responsible to do lead gen. It's different on every team. We do participate in our team on some special occasions, but it's not typical. So I was thinking, how can we support along the way? So go ahead, Ashley.
Sorry. A big thing for us here on that our team is like gatekeeping, right? So like anything that would distract the agent while they're lead generating
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be a thing. Like if you see someone's getting ready to come in and ask the agent a question, stop them. If you share an office, of course, if you're able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The less distractions they have during that lead gen, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I feel like there's 1,000 fires, but no, our agent just goes straight to lead gen. Like nothing phases them. They have like full fireproof and straight to lead gen. So if they have that focus, we have to help them stay focused and stop the distractions.
Yeah, so tactic 4 in there it talked about time blocking. I can't remember what page it's on. Brooke, if you can maybe look into that. I think that's in tactic 4. Talked about time blocking. So yes, agents should be time blocking a chunk where they're just calling, and generating, and then they're going on to do their other duties. For our team, we do that from 9 to 11 every single day. Every agent generates from 9 to 11. Now, in a shifting market, you may need to do that a little bit longer. So maybe you time block in 3 hours a day. So I think that we should be assisting our agents in time blocking because some agents don't know what a time block is. And they don't know how to make one. And, with Ops Boss coaching, we talk about time blocking a lot because that is what gets the operations people through the day, day in and day out. So if an agent had those tools, imagine how much they could get done. What stood out? What else stood out to you in this? I have a ton of notes. I don't want to overwhelm you with my ideas. So what stood out to you in tactic 4? Lead gen has to happen in the office, not at home. Totally understand time blocking, but how do you devote that much time to be able in the field with clients and work on fires with contracts? So I think time blocking, 2 hours sounds like a lot of time, but you need to feed the funnel. as well. And if you don't time block those hours in, and if you don't dedicate those hours, how are you supposed to feed the funnel and have leads coming in to then cultivate business, to then close and make money? You see what I'm saying? So sometimes it takes that time to devote into the lead gen. And there's plenty of hours left in the day, because your agent's role is to convert appointments and close them. So that makes me question if they're struggling with 2-3 hours a day, maybe they're not leveraging enough off to their operations. Maybe they're doing too much of the wrong thing, because we want to remember to work in our skill sets and our sweet spots. Christy said, time blocking ensures you will always have clients. Otherwise, you have an up and down business like a roller coaster. Yes. Elizabeth, dealing with business never takes precedence over finding business. Yep. You don't have business if you don't find it. Simple as that. Page 70, being honest with what you don't know. We are feeding our agents with the mindset that they're going to have to work longer for conversion and more effort is going to be needed. My hope is with our transparency, they'll be less likely to be discouraged with the lower conversion rate and know what to expect. I think that ties in perfectly to what we've been talking about on every call now. Expectations up front lead to less burnout, less discouragement, less hard feelings over what's going on. Setting expectations, 100%. Create a standard of number of calls per day and number of appointments per day. I think that's based on everyone's conversion rate. Like, how many numbers of calls do you need to make in order to get an appointment? So kind of piggybacking on, let me see who said this, on what Natalie said, it's important to know your numbers. So I know we talked about that in the previous chapters. Maybe you can come alongside the agents and assist with putting their numbers into a CRM that tells them their percentages of conversion, so they themselves can see per agent how many calls they need to make every single day in order to set an appointment, how many appointments should they be setting a week in order to get how many clients signed a week, all of those conversions. And that's all in MREA if you have not read that yet, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Have you all revised your onboarding systems to reflect changing markets? Great question. All starts with the onboarding. That's where the expectations start, especially if you have new agents that are coming in during a shift. We had an agent specifically say that she doesn't even know how to spend her time in this market. She's newer and she's only seen the crazy market of last year. Have to keep in mind that most agents have not been through a shift. Exactly. Most people just don't know, which is, I think, as operations, it's our goal to help them get through it, because we do the reading, we know the tactics. How can we give them the tools in order to be successful? So when I was going through Tactic 4, I was thinking of what are some ways that we can support. And as I was brainstorming, I want to share those with you because our team has done some things that I think really help. We can do things such as scheduling classes for language patterning. I don't know if everyone knows who Anna Kruger is, but she does an amazing, amazing language patterning class that helps you close with clients. It helps you dig deeper for the motivation, go 3 deep. We've paid for her to come into our office and do a workshop with our agents. We've done, oh, she's speaking at the retreat this year. That's awesome. If you're coming to the Ops Boss retreat, she's speaking there, and I'm sure that'll be amazing. Anything she says is so valuable. I think she only spends like 3 hours with us when she comes, and it's life-changing. Her name is Anna Kruger. There we go. Christy put it in the chat. So I was thinking about that. I was also thinking about a bold 100. Because we're trying to capture as many leads and as many contacts as you can. A bold 100 is when your team comes together, everyone comes in the office, and you call until you get 100 contacts in a day. So it goes from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and everyone's calling. There's prizes, there's games. Like I was talking about a little bit earlier to Genevieve, we want to make it fun. And so as admin, like a bold 100, if you just say, all right, we're coming in the office, we're going to make 100 contacts a day, a little bit overwhelming sounding. So how can we make that fun to everyone? Let's see what's going on in the chat so I don't miss anything. We did one last month, got 200 plus entries. That's amazing. We do giveaways during Bold 100, so it gets people to call in so we can at least chat with them. There's so many tactics you can do with Bold 100. Let's see what else I have on here. Finding scripts. So providing your agent with scripts that are proven to work. Script practicing. A lot of agents say, oh, I can't find anyone to script practice with. Call me. I'm available. What admin can they run their scripts on? Because you want to practice on your people on your team. You don't want to practice on leads. What else do I have here? Providing agents with a list of their biggest lead sources. So admin track that. And in these tactics, it's talking about pouring into your biggest lead sources. So do your agents know what that is? And can we help them by providing that? And then they can pour into those people. Talks about using our newsletter and marketing to deliver short-term results as well, and developing long-term relationships. So we do the newsletter, we do all the marketing. So how can we as a team collaborate on those tactics or on those pieces to put into our newsletter? And later on, we'll talk about the website and things like that. Let me see what's going on in the chat.
Sophia had a great question. I would love to hear if anybody on the call wants to chime in with answers. How are you guys helping your agents prepare for lead gen? I loved the 3-part definition of lead gen: preparing, doing the lead gen, and then your follow-up after. So tell us what you guys are doing to help with that.
I can touch on that, Sam, if that's okay. So I think one of the big things we've been doing is re-solidifying what their lead gen is focused on, because I think some of the things that maybe they're used to doing aren't working anymore, or maybe they've just forgotten the habits around what really works for them. So getting back to their business plan or their 1-3-5, what are their 3 lead levers that they want to focus in on?
Perfect. I really like what Ashley said here too. I make sure they have beverages, phones charged so they aren't distracted. It's the little things, because sometimes an agent does not think of anything. We're dealing with a lot of high Ds. Define and create agent bunkers for effective lead gen. I think we have all of our agents are in one room, and I know not everyone has the luxury of doing that. We have a door, we shut it during lead gen hours. We have little signs that we put on their desk. Working on lead gen, come back at 12, things like that. There's things that we can help with as admin to best prepare the agents. Remind them, as Gary says in the shift, don't confuse effort with enjoyment. Exactly. Like I said, we want to make it fun. It's fun to find leads. It can be grueling, but it's, again, ties back into that mindset, like from the beginning. There were some figures in Tactic 4 that I want to touch on before moving on that I think are awesome. Figure 13 on page 65 shows a list of possible prospecting and marketing tactics to lead generate. We can provide that to them so they can have ideas to run off of. We can help prepare for open houses to take them to the next level. That's on figure 14 on page 71. Gene Rivers who's with Keller Williams, came and visited us one time, and he, we said we didn't do open houses, and he was flabbergasted. And we're like, we can't find agents to do them. And he's like, why on earth would you not do an open house? He's like, do you know how much marketing you could do at this open house? Different stations for different things your company provides. It's like basically holding a career fair for your company. It's not just having an open house to capture leads for buyers. It's so many, it's selling your company in someone else's house. Those are buyers and sellers who are actively raising their hands. Exactly. Even if they're looky-loos, they're still interested in something, and you can still have a conversation about real estate with them. And then
the
the
one
last
thing I just wanted to hop in there, because that actual thing has come up on coaching calls multiple times this week. Are you guys helping your agents by tracking and setting goals for how many people you're adding to your database on a weekly basis from open houses, right? Same thing. How many people are you adding to your database from Sphere every single week? We tend to just do that when we join the team, and we forget to continue to feed the database. So those are little tracking things that ops people can help with.
I agree. And a really easy way to capture that is if you have a weekly meeting. You can do an agent stand-up where they report those numbers to you. The operations people can put them in a spreadsheet and then compare the numbers as time goes on.
We just implemented a system starting this month where every day after lead gen, they all get together, report us our numbers. We all get them in a spreadsheet, and we're like building little graphs because our agents are really visually oriented. So we're having like, they can actually see a graph of, this is what they did for lead gen, these are the results. This is what they did for lead gen, these are the results. So that at the end of each quarter, they can see like pie charts and things like that of where they put their efforts and what actually converted, so that we can, you know, do the 3 months out of what closed.
That's awesome. And that's great too, to provide two different ways. Some people might like spreadsheets. Some people might be more visual when it comes to pie charts and things like that. Anything else that stood out to you in tactic number 4 before we move on?
Just to add back to that, a thought that comes to mind is we have been very focused on lagging indicators, meaning how many contracts, how many closings, all of that. This is the time to focus on activities. So on the operations side, if you've built one of those charts with all the little houses or the keys that everybody puts on every time they have a closing or go under contract, you can change those to focus on your activities on your lead gen side instead of on the results side.
Tactic number 5, I'm just going to give a short little summary and then we'll just start spitfiring all your ahas. So the summary is getting your leads to convert. I think a really interesting statistic in there was that NAR shows that 2/3 of all buyers and sellers only interview one agent. So you need to be the first or second agent at the interviewing table. So it's really who can get in front of them first. Talked about capturing, connecting, and closing. The follow-up process with the lead is crucial. We want to stay on top of mind and connect with the lead until they close. You determine if you meet the client or not. The agent's ability will cause a meeting to take place, or your lack of ability will prevent it. We need to be consistent and persistent. So what stood out to you in tactic number 5?
To me, it was a lot of speed to lead. I mean, that has always been the case. And yet, if you want to stay in this business as a real estate agent, it's even more important now. And so training the agents on how to do that, what that looks like. And then we've already touched on it, but it's complete script practice. Now's the time to be dialed in on what to say when you actually get someone on the phone.
Right. And I think time is money, especially with these, when you're trying to get more quality leads, you want to say the right things on the phone. You want to be intentional with what you're saying so that you can get an appointment with them in the first place. Yes. So how are we assisting with capturing, connecting, and closing? I made some notes. What kind of follow-up systems is everyone using? Because I think follow-up is where a lot of leads fall off. Agents don't have follow-up in place. So what kind of things are you all doing to make sure that those leads are getting followed up on?
So Sam, I think when you think about us as operations people, that's where we can play such a huge role of like, what is the system? What's the automation for them, for the agents? Because I think we can have the rules around the categories, right? We were watching as a team, one of the shift videos on the cultivate for future. And that's even where we stand today. We're like, hey, who were all those buyers that were freaked out last year that now the houses in Indiana are sitting a little bit and we want to call them, right? So what is the system I could have had in place? So I think it's looking at your CRM, you know, what are the automated texts, what's your automated emails, and what's your tagging system? Christy and I were just talking about tags on our coaching call the other day, so that we can easily pull up the right list and say, okay, this is the list you guys want to be calling. We can set our agents up for success with that.
Yes. Does anyone utilize a lead manager?
No.
So I've seen teams use this before, and I just want to expose you to it if you haven't heard of a lead manager. Our lead manager, she tracks everything about leads that come in. She assigns them to agents. She tracks where they come from. She analyzes data basically all day long. And I think she has been really useful when it comes to the shift, because she pulls lists as well, like Hannah was mentioning, that agents should be calling on that have a lot of buyers or sellers in it, different pools of people. Let me see what I'm missing in the chat here. We set up a D2D system for each agent and hand them a list of who to call, text every Monday morning. I think the more that we can provide our agents with, the better, because I think a lot of them get stuck on with, who am I going to call? And if we get rid of that question and we give them an answer, I think they'll be a lot more fruitful with lead gen. I think that's where a lot of people get hung up.
I think you can do the same thing with what Hannah was talking about, also with pulling your list of, we used to just classify with A, B, or C. A is they're ready, willing, and able, and the definitions were in that previous chapter. Ready, willing, and able to buy within or sell within 30 days. Ready, willing, and able within 60 days. And they need to do something before they can buy or sell would be a C. And so we would meet once a week and look at the list. Who's on your C list that can move to B? Who's on your B list that can move to A? Who do you have on your A list that's really not ready, willing, and able to buy that you're spending time with that should move back down to B? So those are, you can either do those accountability calls with your agents or just provide the list to whoever your director of sales is.
Yes. Mindy says, one thing I've done is if my agent has a buyer/listing appointment, but they don't convert at the appointment, then I have drip campaigns with texts and emails to nurture them for 30 days after the appointment. That's amazing. Just a way to stay front of mind. The last text is, let's get together next week for coffee. I think building those touch plans is an amazing first step. I think it's also important that we preach there's no such thing as a bad lead. Some are just more ready than others, and use your time wisely. I agree. We're starting to really look at what we consider a quote bad lead. We're even starting to look at people who are not pre-approved or pre-qualified, because if we get in front of them now, by the time they're pre-approved and pre-qualified, they'll be using us as their agent. Not to go down a rabbit hole, but what to do when our individual agents are responsible for their own lead gen and database organization, but they aren't doing it. I'm talking about old schoolers who may not be okay with changing up the system. What's everyone's thoughts on that? What happens if they're not? Go ahead.
Can I chime in?
Yep.
Because that is definitely a question that I have. I think it's one of the biggest challenges that my rainmaker, so it's my rainmaker and myself, and we have a cyberbacker also. And what I find is that having trouble with her focusing on lead gen, to the point where, providing names and, oh, I haven't gotten to that. I am starting to touch base with those people because I want to make sure that they're staying in the mix of things. She's been focused on all of the sales, and we are at the point where I'm pulling some of that stuff physically off of her plate, and so that is a huge time suck for her and for me. And what are some tactics to redirect?
So here's a quick question. Is it because they don't know what to do, or they don't know who to call, or they don't know what to say, or do they know all of those things and they just don't want to do it?
It's they know all of those things. It's not that they don't want to do it. I think it's a procrastination thing. So yeah, I guess it's they don't want to do it.
So something's getting in the way, either a thought, an attitude, a feeling, something's going on internally that keeps them from doing what they wanted, or keeps them from doing the thing. Is it too hard? Is that the thought? This is too hard. It's going to be hard. How can you make it easier for them?
Yeah, I think she likes to live in the operations side a little too much. So that's so Elizabeth, thank you. That's my aha moment for today. I need to get her out of the operation and need to, she trusts me completely. I have everything, but it's getting her to step back and, all right, focus on this. I got this. I think because it's a recent thing with the shift. It's a recent issue. So
well, I think it's because people are getting uncomfortable, and people run away from getting uncomfortable. So she's getting uncomfortable and she wants to live on the operations side, which can't happen. Got to stay in our own lanes,
And to add on to that, earlier tactics too of like making sure like who are your players, and just because they were a player when the market was great, they may not be a player for you anymore, and you do need to be looking at that on your team. And obviously you can't like fire a rainmaker or anything, but you do with all these other agents when they're not wanting to do it, they're procrastinating. Like, are they a player that still needs to be around? Because with the shift, it may change, and you need to be aware of it and be ready to make action on that, because the longer you drag it on, the more expensive it is to your team, the more energy, the more time, all of those things play into that.
That was something that we have kind of had in our operations meetings recently, you know, not necessarily talking about anybody specifically on our team, but just in general, is why be on a team if you don't want to be a teammate and a team player? You know, if our team is moving in this direction, we want to use new technology, we want to learn new things, but you want to be stuck in 1990s real estate, why do you want to be here? What are you just using our team and sucking resources from our team, or are you contributing and willing to grow with us?
So if I can add to that, I think that one of the things I've learned in this industry is that there is a misconception that this world is a glamorous world, that people just show up and look hot in whatever shoes we have and business cards, and business just falls in our lap. But this is a hustler's game. You've got to hustle. You got to be hungry for business. You have to be resourceful and super scrappy. And you got to find business where there's no business. And this is where the true leaders show up, the people who are really hungry show up. I've seen this also with not just with agents, but I've also seen it with recruiters and executives who are we're all in sales in this industry, no matter what level you are in. And we have to learn where to find the business where there is no business. And you create those standards, you create what you require to be on the team. And if you don't meet those standards, then the rules are what allows you to evaluate and decide if this is a good fit, not you as the bad person, but the rules as the standard.
And I think that ties into a clear mission, vision, and values. So is your team clear on what the Rainmaker is expecting out of them? And another thing that I think is important that my Rainmaker brings up a lot is the people that get you to one point are not necessarily the people that will get you to the next. And that's important to remember. Christy, I think you want to.
I was just going to say, before we jump on and I agree with everything that's been said, by the way, so far, so I'm not disagreeing with you. But before we jump on I'm going to rag on all the agents on my team who aren't doing lead gen train, are we leading up? Are we stepping into uncomfortable? Are we doing script practice? Are we asking for referrals? Are we doing all the things that are uncomfortable for us to lead by example so that they can lean into being uncomfortable, and we can all be uncomfortable together, and then it's way more fun, right? So I just want to give you that little flip side perspective.
Mm-hmm. We're leading through the shift. Okay, so we're out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to task you guys with a little bit of homework. So tactic six starts with, what are you doing on your website to capture more leads? And it states that buyers want to look at homes for sales and research neighborhoods to live in, and sellers want to know the value of their home and sites it will be marketed for sale. So what are you doing to make your website stand out, your social media stand out? And we'll start the next call talking a little bit about that stuff before we dive into the next two.
For those of you who are in our Facebook group, Sam, can you just post that question right in the Facebook group, and you guys can go head right into the Facebook group right now and answer the questions so we can at least share that information.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. This one, I mean, like all the others, flew by. It's kind of hard to cram 3 in one day, but we got through it. Again, I'll go and post that on Facebook so we can chat a little bit about it there. And then next week we'll talk about 2 weeks from now, we'll talk about the next 2 tactics. Thank you everyone for coming, and I look forward to seeing you next time.